There have been several legal rulings on immigration this week as the Trump administration continues its crackdown. The White House revoked Harvard's ability to admit international students before a Boston judge temporarily blocked that move. Then the Supreme Court ruled to end deportation protections for Venezuelan migrants. And another Massachusetts judge ordered the U.S. to keep control of criminal migrants deported to South Sudan. To talk more about these big stories, let's bring in former Arizona Supreme Court Judge Andrew Gould. Judge, let's talk about the Harvard situation first. The administration is telling Harvard it cannot admit foreign students because they could prove to be a terrorism risk. Is that brush a little too broad, or is the administration right on point here?
Good afternoon, John. No, it's not too broad. But the situation we have at Harvard is this. Harvard seems dead set on discriminating against Jewish students. They are not engaging in any protections for Jewish students. So if they want to discriminate, they can, but the administration's not going to go away. Here, they've allowed violence on campus, some atrocious things to happen to students, a very hostile environment for them. And so if they want access to the foreign exchange program, they have to follow the rules. DHS administers those rules. They clearly don't want to follow those rules. And so the administration, the president, and DHS can deny them access. The ball's in their court.
Okay, so what about the students who maybe have already been admitted to Harvard or, have not arrived yet on campus? Where does this leave them?
That's up to Harvard. Harvard has to comply with the DHS rules. This is a special program. It's worked very well for this country in the past, but because Harvard is discriminating and placing students at risk, they have now placed all those students at risk. And so I would simply say again, John, this is something that is the inherent authority of the President of the United States. It is run by DHS, and it can be solved today if Harvard decides to stop discriminating against Jewish students.
And then there's the Supreme Court ruling that ends protections for Venezuelan migrants who arrived in this country illegally. Give us your take on what the Supreme Court ruling has done here.
Well, the Supreme Court was exactly on point on this. The TPS program deals with protections for immigrants that are from countries where they may be in danger. Again, this is completely within the authority of the President of the United States and DHS. Presidents have expanded it, contracted it, modified it. President Biden expanded it, expanded the timeframes. President Trump has said, no, we're going to end it now. We're going to end it a year earlier. So the Supreme Court got it exactly right. And this is completely the president's authority under the Constitution and the law.
So many judges, especially, federal district judges, have been issuing these rulings that completely block the administration's programs and plans. Is that going to come to an end, do you think? I mean, as a result of this Supreme Court ruling or maybe others, will there be less of that kind of judicial interference with what the president is trying to do?
Well, frankly, John, I don't think the Supreme Court has done enough. It's stepped in a few spots, but it needs to do more. Look, whenever judges get involved in political decisions in this country, it always ends in disaster. And right now, federal judges are being drawn into these cases. Some are very anxious to get involved in these cases. And if you think about some of the past decisions where judges have done that, they're infamous. Dred Scott helped start the Civil War. Roe v. Wade split this country for 50 years, right down the middle. And so it's incumbent on the Supreme Court to pass some rules, to issue some decisions, to pull back on these judges. A very good place to start is with these national injunctions. Federal district court judges should not be issuing them. And if in fact it's a matter that's so important that constitutional rights are in jeopardy, then the parties can file an emergency petition to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has the authority to issue a national injunction, not some federal district court judge. That's a violation of due process, John.
And then there's the case of that Wisconsin judge confronting ICE agents who came to the courthouse. Give us your thoughts on that.
John, I dedicated over 20 years of my life to be a judge. I was afraid to order a glass of wine at a public restaurant because I wanted people to have confidence in me as a judge. There were many times I didn't agree with the law, but you're not a judge until you enforce a law you don't agree with. And what that judge has done is one of the most despicable, shameful things I've ever seen, because she has thumbed her nose at the law, and worse yet, she has given people an image of judges throughout the country. She has made people lose confidence in the justice system. I find it absolutely reprehensible, and she should go to prison for what she's done.
Yeah, she is facing criminal charges for helping an accused criminal escape ICE agents who are waiting to take him into custody. A former Arizona Supreme Court judge, Andrew Gould. It's good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.